morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling on a Sunday, day after a big day of racing. On a quick note, what questions did or what questions didn't get answered this weekend in races as we pretty much are done with the Breeders' Cup preps at this point?
I think that Ted Noffey secured himself as your favorite for the Breeders' Cup
agree.
Juvenile. I think that's an obvious one. I think it's a little bit more open as far as the 2-year-old fillies. But at the same time, I was impressed with Iron Orchard yesterday, and I'm excited to see what she can do now that she showed that new dimension as well.
I agree with all that. Those are very fair. I think that the Coolmore Turf was a good race and kind of cool to see the New York bred win. And a friend of mine was pointing out the real grade ones in Kentucky this year for the males. 3 of them, 2 of the 3 were won by New York breds because Spirit of St. Louis won the race at Churchill back in the spring, and it's impressive. But I think what it also kind of underscored to me yesterday's race is, man, if I had a Euro that could run effectively at a mile, I'd be going out the Breeders' Cup because they're just, and I think, you know, I said something on Twitter about this. The guy who bought Carl Spackler and decided to bring him over to Europe, I wonder if he's having some second thoughts about that decision, because he would probably have just dominated that division this year. It's made for more fun and competitive races.
Sure.
But, I mean, it is hard not to believe he wouldn't have been the leader of that division. But I agree with you about Ted Noffey. You know, he is the one that brought that form from the hopeful and repeated it going the 2 turns, and he looks like a pretty substantial favorite. Though, listen, the horse ran well here yesterday, Napoleon Solo. I don't want to knock him. He had a 94 buyer. Yeah. He ran fast, and he ran very well. He was very impressive, and good chance he could be the second choice or third choice in there. And I agree with those things. We'll see what happens as we go forward. Obviously, the Breeders' Cup coming up just 26 days from today. There'll be a lot more discussion of that as we get closer. Head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member, use the promo code MATCH200 and we'll match about $200 of your initial deposit. Play through Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. We got a pick 6 here, 65,367. There's a funny conversation. I actually know the guy who was alive in the pick 6. I mean, I'll say what it was because his partner in owning horses talked about me on Twitter. It's Seth Morris, who was an options trader, and I like Seth a lot. Yeah. He's a very smart guy, but, you know, it's a funny situation because the parlay going into the last leg for $1 was over $60,000. And if that horse won, the parlay was of his. He had the Proctor horse that ran 4th. The horse had the lead in the stretch. And it would have been over $200,000, the parlay. You know, it reminded me of a conversation before your time. There's a somewhat legendary horse player named Richie Schwartz that I'm sure some people watching knew of. Richie. He passed away not that long ago. Richie's was one of the first people that used the Ragozin sheets. Oh, okay. Yeah, he knew Ragozin from the games clubs in the city way back, where a lot of my friends who were games players, not horse players, knew Ragozin way back from there as well. And, you know, he made a lot of money using the sheets in the beginning, in the early stages. And we were talking about betting pick 6s. I was talking to him at Santa Anita. I didn't know Richie that well, but I was there in Santa Anita in the early 90s. And I ended up in a conversation with him. He knew my boss at the time, where I traded with him, who was a well-known backgammon player. And talking about playing the pick 6s, he was saying how there is an argument, and it's a very reasonable argument, that you should never be including combinations that are paying significantly higher than the parlay, because your money could be better spent in other ways. I'm sorry, where you better than the parlay is higher than the money in the pool. Yes. In other words, this payout pool, which was pretty good, $65,000 on a Saturday, you got a combination paying $200,000. You're just not getting paid. Now, listen, I wish Seth had won the $65,000. You know, he's a good guy, and I respect anyone that plays and does that. And it was an incredible ticket to put together. But nonetheless, there's better ways to put that money to work during the races to make money. And we're talking about the way of putting these tickets together, and you know, and it's a hard thing to do. But you don't want to include 320 to 1 shots in a ticket in a pick 6 because you just can't get paid. And you could do better by betting those horses individually and in the races.
And that's the thing that you'll think about when you do hit, and you could have seen how much you could have had versus, oh, I didn't, and I missed out on however much.
There's a little we can do, and there are always going to be occasions where we bet multi-race bets, and we're not going to get the parlay. But I think it's something to think about, and it's very much a game theory type thing in playing pick 6s, of not putting yourself in a position where, yes, it's great to win $65,000, but when you should have won $200,000,
a little bit of a difference.
You've left a lot of money on the table that you could have maybe made playing in a different way. I think it's an interesting discussion. Nonetheless, we have the carryover, 65-367, starts in race 4 of our 9-race card. We have a 5,000 hit and split on the late pick 5. You want to opt in for that at Naira Bets. We've got a 10% bonus on the win bet at Santa Anita. I'm going to say something about California racing as we end these promos. 10% bonus, you want to opt in for that. What else, Eddie? We have a 10% exacta bonus at Keeneland as well. I have not looked at Keeneland at all. Too much going on.
Torpedo Anna runs today, but
She
that's
does,
about
she
all I
does.
got.
I got to bet Scylla.
I'm not betting nitrogen.
No, I don't like nitrogen either. I think she's a very cool horse, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. I don't think she's got a prayer to beat Torpedo Anna. Scylla she can't beat anybody, but I still love her. What else we got? Okay, we got 1-3 on FS1, and what could go wrong here? 3-348 on FS2 would be going
Precisely.
through the 6th. The way I did want to mention at the top of the show that, as many of you may know, Jeff Siegel passed away yesterday, and Jeff, of course, very well known in the handicapping community, working with HRTV, XBTV as well, going back an original founder of Team Valor. I didn't know Jeff that well, and I don't want to talk about somebody I didn't know that well, but my experience with Jeff were always extremely positive. He was an incredibly kind guy, and I just enjoyed when I talked to him on different occasions going back a number of years. And so many people I know and respect, Andy Beyer, Jay Privman, other people, thought of Jeff in the highest regard, and he passed away in his early 70s yesterday, and I know he leaves a real hole, and he had so many friends out in California especially, and really throughout racing, and our condolences to all of them, but Jeff Siegel, who passed away way too soon, getting sick and dying in his early 70s yesterday. We did want to mention that. It certainly should be mentioned on all handicapping shows, because Jeff, well considered by many, many, many smart people to be a very, very great handicapper, and who might argue that, but probably even a better person, which is always more important. All right, on to not more important things, but other things. Today's first race, we'll take a look at Hey Toby and Undisputed. Undisputed just completely failed to show up last time after that big race. And Jenna had a big Saratoga. You wonder sometimes, you do well in Saratoga, they take a step back. I'm not Hey Toby's biggest fan. I also think he's going to have to deal with other speed in this race. Undisputed's got to go from the inside, and I think Solo Empire's got to go. I just don't love Hey Toby.
I hear you. And I have
He can
Hey
win.
Toby second because he has some races that suggest that he's going to show up with at least an honest effort coming into this spot. But I'm with you on Undisputed, as having that one race to back start to look more like an outlier, where yes, he was able to secure the early lead in that spot and win by open lengths with that 82 Beyer speed figure, but he was absolutely empty in that race last time out. And I thought that drawing the rail as well, he was going to have to go. And then Solo Empire really has that one way of going where you have to imagine that he's going to try to secure the lead as well. So I really didn't see it for either of them getting the kind of trip that ultimately they might prefer to be successful.
So what am I missing with the two Sebastian the Great, or first?
He needs to improve to be able to defeat this group. He's had limited starts on the dirt, but I did think that start in that N1X allowance where Just Licorice won was actually a little bit better than he seems, because I don't really feel as though he stumbled at the start in there, but he did kind of bobble forward a bit and take a bit of a pause. And Refuo, who finished third in that race, did come back and run second, and then he ran third in that race that we just showed with Hey Toby, and Undisputed coming out of that, improving back to one of his higher numbers, then actually won a race with a 79 Beyer speed figure after that. And I don't want to hold it against the winner too much, couching a wet track next time out and then trying the Albany. The second place finisher did switch back to the turf, running a number that's in line with previous starts. And overall, it's just been somewhat of a productive race. And I thought this one would be enough of a price where maybe he can take that step forward in that race. Two back was a little bit better than it seems.
Yeah, I don't ever play horses like this. He's got a huge turf pedigree, and he ran reasonably okay in some off-the-turf races. He's not my cup of tea, but he'll be a price. I wish you the best of luck. I took Chief Liam, who's kind of a moto horse for Kenny McPeak. His horse has been running very well. This one's obviously with Jimmy Jerkins here at Belmont Park. Comes out of a race against significantly better horses than these. I don't think you're getting the 6-1 morning line, but I like the fact he stretches out to a mile. His race at Oaklawn is probably good enough to compete with these, and just thought stretching out second time off a layoff against a much easier field, he would run a better race today. Race number 2, big scratch in race number 2 with Organite coming out. What's the Orator story?
He's just had those races where he's showing a level of consistency. And normally I would be a little bit skeptical of a horse that's stretched out to more of the marathon distances, the 1.25 miles, the 1.5 miles last time, cutting back in distance. But he's been able to handle it in the past and still run okay, finishing third in a start at Monmouth, 3 races back. It just seems as though he's one that is able to at least not be too far out of things early on in here. Seems to have put the gate issues behind him a bit, where he didn't break all that quickly in that second start and finish behind a horse in Durand. I don't know. I just wanted to see somebody that had that foundation coming into this spot and maybe would be able to finally put things together today.
Okay, we'll have to agree to disagree that he's going to be anywhere close to the pace. I don't see that as even a reasonable possibility in here. Once again, he'll be a square price. I didn't get him in here. I thought the other races were just better than these, and I had liked Organite. I scratched into the favorite Durand, who did underachieve last time. I thought the last race was a little bit disappointing, to be honest with you. It run very well 2 back. But we don't need to show this replay, Eddie. We took this one out. There's no reason to show it. Regardless. Or maybe I forgot to tell you we took it out. Your problem. No, we did actually say
We took out the third race, right?
No, we took this one out too.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
Well,
that's
missed
okay. I just think he's very, very logical in here, as perhaps is Vintage Vino. I'm a little tired of going back to horses. Durand is a little bit lightly raced. I thought David made an interesting case about Operation Overlord. David Aragona was talking to him about it. He feels the horse could be the speed. I'm not sure. Kendrick rode very aggressively last time, but that pace did really heat up. It does bring to mind the errors in the charts, which is why I wanted to talk about it. It's not a big deal, but this horse lost by about 1.5 lengths to 2 more lengths than it shows. He clearly lost by 7 or more lengths. Anybody's welcome to watch the replay and see that that's the fake. But he was a first-time starter, and maybe he can run better second time out. At least he's underexposed. It just feels like a lot of these horses are completely and totally exposed,
Right.
and they are who they are. And I took the 2 that are most exposed, but they might be the best 2 horses.
Yeah, I think it's kind of that day where we've seen quite a bit of many of these horses, but it's just going to end up being the day for somebody.
We'll see what happens in race number 2. Race number 3, Stolen Base coming out, probably one of the bigger scratches along with Organite in today's cars. There's very, very few scratches in the body of the races today. You have gone to the old pro, Amundsen.
Yeah, I mean, he's one that just seems to always show up. I don't mind him going back to Ilka Cantermasi, whose horses have been running better since a slower Saratoga. He can be forward. I like his race last time where he ultimately ended up finishing second ahead of Thrill of It. I thought that he was facing some better horses and didn't get quite as much forward position over a wet track. Start 2 back when the barn was not going quite as well. And Barksdale's a legitimate speed type of horse, as is Stewie. So I just like that he's going to be in a spot where it seems that he makes the most sense coming in here. Things are picking back up for the outfit, and I thought that he could be forward.
Yeah, obviously he can win. I don't really like him today, but I got him third. He can win. I wanted a couple of others. I want to give Thrill of It. I didn't pick him on top again. I picked him last time because at least he showed a little bit of life last time, and he certainly has back races. And that did seem like a race where being forward, and there were even some indications that track being forward may have been a bit of an edge in there. So I thought maybe he could run better today. But I'm going to take Lost in Rome, who has not won a race in quite a while, but he is dropping back to a reasonable level. He was, just over his head last time, trying to go the mile. Time before that, I don't think he ran that badly. You mentioned Barksdale. He actually finished ahead of Amundsen that day, and he ran credibly enough. And I just thought maybe dropping in at this level, he's just finally kind of running where he belongs. He's not particularly a winning type. It's been a while for him. But I look back on some of the races at this level, and I just thought he kind of fit, and his price would be okay. So I picked him. I did not have a particularly strong opinion in this race.
Yeah, and I mean, he's had those 2 good races for this barn when he's been spotted more appropriately,
Yeah,
and even
and he
a
gets
little bit above his head.
Gets Kendrick back on, which I certainly don't think is going to hurt. Kendrick riding extremely well. Race number 4 is a race where you pretty much only have workouts to go on because there's really not much to go on. What did you like about Best Girl Magic? And we can hold off on replays.
This is a tough way to start out that pick 6 carryover.
Well, at least it's the first leg, so people can see the money.
You can also go back and play a late pick 5 if need be. But a couple of the full siblings were decent with this one. Dream Tree obviously being the most accomplished for Bob Baffert, did win several of her first starts. A couple of those over eventual champion quality at Midnight.
Who is Green Tree?
Bisou.
Dream Tree?
Dream Tree is the full sibling to Best Girl Magic.
Okay.
And she ended up running well to win the Prioress. She had a little bit of trouble in the La Brea, but overall just didn't really throw in a bad race through much of her career. And while the other siblings don't have quite as much going for them by any means as that one, I just looked like the workouts with this one coming in, and it's just a lot of guessing in this race.
Well, you know, guessing about workouts at farms is probably a bad thing to do. We'll take a look at her 2-year-old sales work. I thought there were a number of 2-year-old sales works for the lady, worked 9 4/5. The Tom Morley horse down on the rail. Sion's Rose, the 2 worked 10 flat. This horse worked 10 flat, and I thought it was an impressive workout. It's not as though she was in a full-out drive. They were asking her to run, but not a full-out drive. The 9 Cravings also worked at 10 flat, and they're going out. So, I mean, there are a lot of horses that have 2-year-old sales works. I don't know they're working. I think Clean Winner is interesting. Kelly Breen, I don't know, has not run a horse in New York in quite a while. I didn't even know if he ran a horse in Saratoga at all. Shipping in here with this one, probably good sign. Bill Mott with the 3, Sassy 1. It feels like his 2-year-old fillies are usually often better than his colts, the debuters. So this is one I'm going to pay attention to. Comes out of a reasonably good family.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I could see that one, but like you, I guess with the 8, but it's very hard to have a strong opinion at this point. We'll see what the betting looks like. I think the board might tell a lot of things in this race. We'll break after 5. Race number 5, 6 furlongs on the turf. And we'll start out by looking at Fancy Lights, who finished second, with Ticket to Ride running 4th. I don't have a big problem with Fancy Lights. I thought she ran fine last time. Ticket to Ride is looking to me like a horse that they're very sharp. They cranked this horse up to win first time, or should have won. Got a bad ride first time in the turf, I should say, in the second start. Would have won in most situations. But she was just completely flat in here, and I wonder if, you know, her expiration date came quickly. But I don't have a problem with how the 3 ran, Fancy Lights.
No, I don't either. And I think that she was one that she took that slight step forward from her first to her second start. She's able to be forwardly placed. I don't think she really did anything wrong in that spot. She got a decent trip saving ground. But other than that, I mean, I don't think that there's any reason to knock her coming into this spot with the 2 races that she's been able to put forth. I just didn't particularly want to take her on top at a short price.
I'm curious why. We'll take a look at Raynham Hall finishing second. What did you not like about her in here as you've left her out of your top 4?
I just felt as though her 2 races were a little bit on the slower side from Beyer speed figures. And look, these are the 2-year-olds. They can improve quite a bit coming into any start, really, as they are able to take those steps forward. She showed some good early speed last time, ended up finishing in second in here. St. Margaret was kind of disappointing the other day, though.
Yeah, I don't totally agree with that, to be honest. I think St. Margaret got caught up in a pace that just completely and totally imploded, and because of her outside post, she was forced to be closer than maybe she would have wanted to be if she had drawn a little bit differently. And Arenado came back and ran a very good second in her next race in the stakes. So I do think that race was okay. I don't love her, but I kind of preferred her of the ones that had run reasonably well. What is it you like about Scorch?
I just think that this one is going to make some sense getting back over to the turf, and I felt as though just really never had the opportunity to save a ton of ground in that one turf start, was forwardly placed, ended up fading a little bit in there. They've clearly tried to get this horse onto the grass a couple of times, and it just hasn't worked out. And this horse has been bet quite a bit in each start, so I feel as though today there's been some intentions with this one to try this surface, and also the betting public has liked this horse as well. I don't mind this one stepping back up in class in a way to this level where facing the New York breds in here after going in for that optional claiming tag last time. I think that this one
no, she wasn't in for a tag last time. She was in a maiden optional claiming race, but she was not in for the tag. I like her for different reasons here. First of all, in that race, that was an insane supersonic pace that just completely and totally imploded in the late stages, and she was chasing it. She made the first move into it, and those are the kind of horses that are just never going to win. And more importantly than that, and this is another example of things that are inaccurate in the charts, she broke through the gate and ran off close to a 16th of a mile in that race before being reloaded. So this is a horse that had a legitimate excuse even before the race was run because of breaking through the gate. I don't love that she didn't run as well on the dirt last time as she ran her first start, but she's a turf horse, and she's getting back to what she should be doing. So I thought she had a built-in excuse even before they ran the race in Saratoga, and then the way the race was run, I thought it was run against her. We both picked Scorch in race 5. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with the late pick 4, including a very nice running of the Weah.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing, get expert picks, boost your bankroll with weekly promotions, and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. I'm always happy when we run the Way, a race that was run for years in Saratoga. And I think one of the best races I ever saw was when Weah beat Pearl Necklace in the Diana and went, I think, 145 and 2 back in the 70s. And I was there at Belmont when she beat the boys in the Man o' War. Angel rode her that day. She beat Tiller, and some very nice Bowl Game, I think, was in there. But Weah she won grade ones on turf, on dirt as well. She horse that Daniel Wildenstein had brought over here when he brought horse over originally with Angel Penna back in the 70s. Peter Brand ended up buying her and doing so well with her. And just a huge fan of Weah, one of my absolute favorite horses. And we'll start the conversation with La Mahana, who you and I both have in second here. And we'll show her winning. And obviously, it's fair to say that she improved on a course with Give to run this race that could win the Breeders' Cup. Unfortunately for her, it's not going to rain in California. But she's better than her last race suggests. And honestly, I'm not sure even if her fourth place finish last time out might not be good enough to win this race. She's the horse to beat, even if the turf is firm.
She is, and I agree with you. She's gotten especially good when she's been able to have that cut in the ground like she did in this runaway victory in the Glens Falls. But it's not as though her other races are so far off a winning type of potential effort into this spot that I want to be dismissive and say she was so much better going over a course with that given it. I think that others were more disadvantaged than she was. That might make her move up look a little bit more promising than it was, but she's still very talented and has the capability to run a winning race here. I just didn't particularly want to pick her on top.
What did I miss about Beach Bomb?
I think that her last two races are a major concern, but I like that she is one that she has that back form to go to where if she can ever return to those types of races that we saw from her in the past, I know it's been a minute, when she was running the kinds of second place finishes that she feels pretty and in much better form earlier this year as well as last year. But it just seemed as though she was one that maybe needed to start off a little bit of time away at Colonial in the Beverly D. She was forward in there and then ended up finishing fifth. And then last time out, I just thought that she never really had much position in that race at Kentucky Downs. And also, I don't want to hold Kentucky Downs against anyone too much. I think she's better than that last race does suggest. But it is a question whether or not what kind of form we're going to see.
She's my fourth choice, guys. The 11 is scratched from this race, so the 2 is my fourth choice. I understand the argument that her prior form was good enough to win here. I'm not going to argue with that. I don't want to put too much stock in a yielding turf race in that bog in the New York, but she obviously ran well. The problem with using the Kentucky Downs excuse for her last race is her Beverly D was so awful that it's hard to say that it was just Kentucky Downs, because the Beverly D was an eyesore of a race this year. Those races, Arlington, they closed Arlington. I almost feel like they don't have a right to run those races after shutting down Arlington Park the way they did. And the Beverly D has turned into just a disaster of a race. And she was terrible in there. And I can't make an excuse. And the other problem for her is with horses like Big Beautiful in here and even American Sonia, she's not going to get that comfortable trip she likes being right on top of a moderate pace. She's going to have to deal with a faster pace, and that kind of worries me. And she's not a big price, and I just can't get past how bad her recent form is in her races. I like American Sonia in this race. I feel like on her good days, and we'll go back to her maybe her best day when she was second to heavily favored Marquita Savine in the Group 1 Prix-Jean Romanette last year at Deauville. When she ran second, she ran super. I'm not going to hold her return race against her. She was running for the first time in almost 11 months. I'm guessing that the winner of that race must have gotten sick or something, because I would assume that she would have been running in this race, especially with the excellent timing horse not being able to make the race. But I thought she ran fine in that race off a layoff. She's got back races that are very good, and I'm just hoping for Brendan that she's going to show what she's capable of. And if she runs her good race, I think she's going to be very tough in here.
When she's come here, she's also been able to not take herself too far out of things, which I appreciate about her quite a bit. I don't know that she's going to be that forward today with the pace that you mentioned, but I think that she's one that can at least keep herself in the game if that pace does fail to materialize, which is what we do often see here.
Well, I think she's the second fastest horse early in this race. I don't see any reason she shouldn't be sitting second. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the way she runs.
We saw Mensitude come back and win the other day as well, the horse that finished second in that race. I mean,
that was a little bit of a dressed-up race when she made the lead in the first turn. She was 1-9. Village Voice is obviously the horse that has to be considered, because there is a possibility she's the best horse in the race. It is a problem, though. She hasn't run in a year. She's been purchased by Resolute Racing since her last race. Chad Brown's numbers are solid, with long layoffs coming in from foreign shippers coming in here. But having said that, I don't love her last race. It was a soft course that day, but she does have some good races. I mean, she was running reasonably competitively with a horse like White Birch, who is a very good European. If she shows up and runs her race, she could be too good for these horses.
Sure. It's not going to be a gamble that you want to take at what's going to be a short price because of connections. And the races that she has in the past where she's been able to be more competitive and I think better than some of the horses she's going to be facing in here, it's just those questions, and as well as the price that she's likely to be wanted. I lent in another direction.
I don't think she's going to be over bet because of connections. She's going to be over bet because she was competing in group level races in Europe against better horses than these. And if she runs her good race, I mean, I understand that Chad Brown's going to take some money, but I think that her form holds up as maybe the horse to beat. And that's one of the reasons she's favored in here, especially with La Mahana having some questions of whether or not she's just better with given the ground. We move on to race number 7. And we'll take a look at the DQ race with a whole bunch of these. Dreamlike sucking up at the end. Ranger Battalion is the one on the rail that has to get steadied. And the one who got DQ'd is House United on the outside, who I believe you have on top.
I do. I went to this one just thinking there might be a little bit of pace in this race. We'll see how that ultimately does pan out in here. And look, I think
who's going to provide that pace?
Well, I think that Golden Symphony is a horse that could be forward coming in first off the claim in here. I think that House United is not going to be too far away. I think Social Hour can be forward as well. Dreamlike is certainly not likely to provide that pace, but
I don't think there's ever going to be pace around here. My problem with this horse, honestly, is with an absolutely perfect trip last time, he hung like a chandelier.
He did.
I mean, I know that he lost a head bob, and if the head bob went the other way, he would have won. I would still say he hung because he looked like gin in that race.
Seconds,
right?
Yeah.
That's why I have no argument with him being a logical horse with you. I just feel like he's got a lot of hang in him. He could certainly win. I just went another way. I went away from that race. I don't love Ranger Battalion. I didn't like him last time. I know he had legit trouble. I still don't think he was winning that race. I don't know if Dreamlike can ever be counted on to run again. I'm against him. I'm just not a big fan of his form was declining. He ran okay last time, but he also just kind of ran when the race was already over in there. And as far as Social Hour, I don't love Social Hour. But what I would say was he legitimized his race 2 back with his last effort, where I actually thought he ran pretty well in there, taking some heat against some better horses than these, and he ran a respectable race, and he showed at least that his race 2 back wasn't a complete mirage.
Sure.
He's no longer just a total one-number type horse, and it was more of an against play. I just kind of didn't love the
race.
I agree with you on House United. I think he's probably the one you want out of that race, but I just couldn't. And where else am I supposed to go in here?
There's not much else going on.
We could go to Shattuck. We'll take a look at his last race, but wasn't he just sort of a last time was the time horse? And as well as Joe Sharp does, he's not great off the claim on dirt.
And isn't he one that is probably not going to get the kind of pace that he did last time by any means, where he was able to close in and get the victory? And I think these are
much better horses than non-winners of 2 lifetime $30,000 claiming
That is a
race
that we had not seen from him in quite some time in terms of running something in the high 70s in
a
terms
while.
of buyer speed figure in
Yeah.
a while. So I just didn't know that things were going to ultimately set up for him in the same way that they did last time. I thought these were better horses, as you did. So it's kind of like you are a little bit stuck with that race that you want to try to stay away from just because of the form of the others coming in here.
Yeah, I feel like there's two horses you can take, the 1 and the 3. I don't know about Golden Symphony. Tom does have good numbers off the claim, but the problem is claiming from Brad Cox. I trust in Tom. Tom's made some very good claims, but claim from Brad Cox on the dirt at Naira in the last year are 2 for 29 with a $1.12 ROI. And that's a pretty glaring one, especially seeing a horse claimed away from Sandy Goldfarb, where it seems like those are the ones that they've run so well for Brad here, and I just don't trust where he can run back to it. But I think the horse is dangerous in his merits. Maybe I could have put him 3rd or 4th against some other horses, but I just don't like horses claimed away from Brad. Race number 8. I know one horse I don't like in here. I don't like the number 8 Repurpose, who's going to take money for the connections.
Okay.
And we'll take a look at his running 3rd last time. I just thought this horse ran 3rd because his race was totally falling apart at the end. It was a bad race. This is not a particularly great race either, by the way.
I was going to say, I mean, I wasn't overly impressed with this horse. I think this is one of the ones that's going to take money. Again, you have Clarvage Stables, Chad Brown, a horse that ran 3rd with a number that seems pretty in line with the rest of this field, but I agree. I think that this one was just showing up late as the race was coming apart. I don't know that this horse necessarily did any running, but I will say that at least he wasn't so far off of things early that he got this big closing kick where he's showing up all of a sudden just as the race is ending and always going to prove second time.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't really like him, and I don't, obviously by who I picked. I don't like anybody in this
I can
race.
tell.
I'll let you talk about Momentum Files, and then I'll explain why I don't like him, though I could see him winning.
I don't love him. I think that he's not going to be much of a price in here by any means, but I do like him getting a little bit less distance and switching over to the turf. I think that he's just been facing some decent horses on the dirt. He's had a couple of difficult trips, especially 2-back, where he stumbled a touch at the start. Is he going to be forward in here? I doubt it, but at the same time, he is one that there is that turf pedigree on the second dam with this one where...
There is?
The second dam?
She was 0 for 4 in the turf, ran an 81 buyer, and she ran a 90 buyer on the dirt.
She ran pretty similar on the turf in the...
No, she didn't.
An 80 buyer in the...
80 versus a 90? Okay, we'll agree to disagree.
Right. Well, they're not in the immediate dam.
The
so I can
problem
agree
with
that.
her is, for me, is she's the morning line favorite based on a bunch of dirt races. And these are horses, win or lose, I'm never going to bet on. I have no problem with this horse. First of all, I would love this horse in a 6-furlong dirt race. And the fact that Cherie has never run this horse in the turf, and now when she's finally running the turf, she's dropping in for 50,000, says to me, I could be wrong, I could text Cherie, maybe she'll disagree with me. It feels like Cherie never thought this was a turf horse. If she thought this was a turf horse, she would have no problem going to turf very quickly with it, with a horse. And he ran well enough. I'm surprised because I don't think this horse ran that badly last time, going a mile against a much tougher field. I could have seen her taking a shot and dropping this horse in maybe at a higher level at 6 furlongs and running here. And listen, I could see the horse winning. He might just be better than these horses, you know, because on his dirt races, he is better than these horses. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But I don't have any confidence he's going to be a turf horse, and he's going to be a short price. I can't bet him at a short. That's my problem.
And I usually hate taking horses like this because they're going to be short prices and they're going to be bet off form where they have to do something new for the first time. But seeing the horses that have run on the turf in this race.
Well, there is a horse that's the clear horse to beat. They're tough connections to bet.
Snare.
But Snare is way the horse to beat in this race. I mean, if Snare runs back to his turf sprints, he's probably going to win this race unless the 5 is, in fact, a turf horse, which I'm skeptical of. He might win even not really being a turf horse. But I don't want to pick these connections on top at a shortish price. But this is the horse to beat. To me, he should be favored because at least he's running the turf.
He's also run on the turf in sprint races and actually shown up and run competitive races.
As opposed to Free Spin, who, you know, I think is a little dangerous, but, you know, is a new gelding, but he's sprinting. I don't really trust him in the turn back. So why did I pick a horse that seems absolutely ridiculous and might be ridiculous? Well, you know, I'm not sure he's that ridiculous. I don't care what he did in his mile and a 16th turf race, but I don't think that his 2-year-old turf sprints were really that terrible. I don't think they were that good, But I don't think they were
could be good
that
enough to
bad.
win here.
He ran against Governor Sam. He ran against Test Score. He ran against horses that are in a different galaxy in these horses. And now he's finally getting his first chance to run on the turf as a 3-year-old. He's getting a chance to finally get back to sprinting on the turf, which at whatever level he was at was at least the best that he could do. And he's going out for Jenna. He's in Jenna's barn. Jenna had a good Saratoga. She's been quiet here, but she was pretty much, I think you could see, cranked up for Saratoga. This horse did not even run there on the turf. She claimed this horse in Saratoga. And I kept coming back to this horse and thinking, you know, my first initial reaction was, oh, just pitch this horse. He sucks. And then the more I started looking, and maybe my initial feeling was correct, I'm not sure this horse. I mean, he's 30 to 1 morning line. I don't think he'll be 30 to 1, but I think he's going to be every bit of 20 to 1 in this race. And I'm going to bet a lot of losers, and I'm going to bet this horse I'm going to lose with too, because I think there is enough of an argument to be made at a big price to take a slight shot with him.
If you think there's any forward progression possible from his second race from 2 to 3, and he showed early speed in there, and those were better horses, yeah, I get it. I think trying to search around for somebody in here is normally what my MO would be, and I just kept coming back to a horse who is trying this for the first time, is going to be a short price, but I just wasn't trying
It's fine. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you why I couldn't bet the 5.
No, I hear you.
Totally understand why the
Usually
5 is being
it's
bet.
not what I wanna
And he
do.
might just be better than this field. And that, you know, in the race man, and he wins by 2 lengths, you just think he was just so much the best horse. I don't get it. I feel like this race has a lot of
This one's very tricky for the
potential
pick six.
pratfalls in it. We'll see what happens. Interesting race number 8. Race number 9, going 1 mile and a 16th. We'll start with a replay of Curly Q Girl last time out, and I think that Phil Doro, who won this race, came back and ran respectably. She got a pretty good trip in there, but she's pretty logical, isn't she?
Yeah, I think that she ran fine in that start. I think that she draws well towards the inside. She took a step forward from her first to her second race. I think the Time to Dream is okay, even though she didn't win the other day at Keeneland for Todd Pletcher. And look, this one just makes some sense as being able to make up some ground and taking those progressive steps forward from the first to the second race. And she just is sort of a standout in this field based on her last race relative to what we have or have not seen from anybody else.
I'm trying to beat her, but I didn't have a big problem with her in here. Hang on a second. My picks here are 4, 6, 1, 2. So either I sent them to you wrong or you put them up wrong. But my picks are 4, 6, 1, 2 in the last race today. Thank you. But since we mentioned the 6, this is obviously a giant pedigree. I have no idea if this horse is going to run or not. I've not talked to Chad Brown, but it's a grade 1 dam and obviously a great stallion, so this horse could be dangerous in here. What am I missing with Black Rose?
Somebody with experience that needs to improve and get faster, but showed some good early speed, at least in that race at Colonial, where we did see the second place finisher of that race, Nicole Silver, come back to win, and she improved quite a bit, going from a 54 to a 71 by her speed figure for Ken McPeak. The winner of that race didn't necessarily take a major step forward, but she has progressively improved a little bit in her 2 starts since then. I just thought that this one, having the turf experience going around of ground, would be a little bit of a better price.
I don't like her losing twice at short prices at Colonial, but I agree her last race might be a little better than it looks. I don't
She just
think
won't be
that's
that short of
unfair.
a price today.
So we should take a look at Sharing Wisdom, Getting Serious, the 2 horse for Shug, running 3rd. I never know what to make of these races, but I will say that Getting Serious ran like a horse that's going to benefit from that start.
Yeah, I like this one coming in here and getting a little bit more distance as well. And look, we didn't really see a horse like Should Have come back and do that well in the matron relative to the kind of short price that she was, but I don't think she ran poorly by any means, and she improved quite a bit while being forwardly placed in that spot too. So it just seems like classic Shumagay, where horses just running themselves into fitness and makes sense.
Yeah, there's a horse in this race that could potentially just absolutely destroy the field, and that's the 4 San Martina. While San Martina, I don't know how strong the race was last time. It was running a heavy bog course. I don't know if people looked up this horse's first race, but the horse that beat her in there, Green Spirit, came back and won a Group 3 in her next start. She won a Group 2 in her next start after that, and she finished second in the Marcel Broussac at Longchamp today, a Group 1, one of the most prestigious group runs run in Europe all year, so for 2-year-olds. So she lost to a horse, Green Spirit, that would probably win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, would probably be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, if she came over for that race, and if she can run back to that effort. getting back on a firmer course, as that was good to soft. So obviously not much more give than this one, but not the kind of heavy bog as last time. I think that she's just going to absolutely destroy this field. She's a Euro. They don't always run those races. They're not that reliable in some ways. But if she runs back to her debut, they're all running for second.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just have that question of whether or not we're going to see it, but I completely hear you on that.
All right, we'll see what happens. Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Head on over to Naira Bets, nairabets.com. If you're not a member, use the promo code MATCH200, and we'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. Lots more stuff to talk about here. Pick 6 carryover, 65,367. Starts in race 4 today, a fun sequence. Not an easy sequence, though, Sarah. I mean, let me ask you a question quickly. Is there a lean in this entire sequence?
Not a strong one. I mean, I think that there's
Who's the biggest lean in the sequence? That's
a tough one, because I don't think there's really a horse that you can fully trust. I would probably lean heavily on House United, but that's not a horse I trust that much. I think that you have a decision to make in the weigh-up, but there's many ways to go in there.
This is a tough sequence to play.
Yeah, I would. This is not one that I would be jumping out of my seat to.
We'll see what happens in the pick 6. What else do we have, Eddie? 5,000 hit and split, late pick 5. If you opt in to play that one, got to opt in at Naira Bets for that as well. We've got a 10% bonus on win bets at Santa Anita. We also have a 10% bonus on exactas at Keeneland. We have the show. There it is. 1 to 3. That latter part. I have $1,000 for anybody, and there's nobody willing to take this bet that something goes amiss with that. What do you think? I know there's nobody in our department that would take the other side.
Something going amiss?
Yes,
that everything would actually work out?
3-48 on FS2.
I know a little bit better.
We'll see what happens,
do
right?
you.
You've been around. You've been around long enough
We've
to know
seen enough.
a little bit better. Anyway, thanks for watching. Chris Griffin's up next with a reprise of the Scratches and Changes. Have a great day.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing, get expert picks, boost your bankroll with weekly promotions, and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.